Hello, everybody, and welcome back. My name is Don Arleth, and it's time for World Talks here on TVP World. A record influx at Europe's gate. Over 50,000 migrants have landed on the Spanish enclave of Ceuta, and now Brussels is arguing over what to do about it. Most have already been returned to Morocco, but the wave has left EU partners on edge, worried that unchecked border crossings could quietly become permanent stays. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez brands the bloc's response as asymmetric, calling for solidarity instead of a fractured approach. Italy isn't waiting around. It's already reimposed border controls, while Ceuta's mayor insists only permanent measures will keep this from happening again. And now joining me to discuss this crisis is Karol Wilczyński, a teacher and researcher at the Jagiellonian Center for Migration Studies. Hello there, Karol, and thank you so much for joining us on World Talks.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Now, this whole crisis, the biggest, I guess, wave of migrants on the EU's southern border in one fell swoop at one time, has got Italy calling to suspend Spain from Schengen. Can you bring us through some of the nuance here? Because we're under the impression that Ceuta is not part of the Schengen, and nobody has traveled further on into Spain from Ceuta. They have been largely returned to Morocco.
Yes. This is unfortunate that some of the politicians in European Union are not showing the solidarity with Spain, which is under pressure from Morocco, and Morocco should be blamed for what happened, because this is the Moroccan authorities which decided to left the border free of the border guards or the army, which was usually keeping the order there. So it should be Morocco that should be blamed for the situation, not Spain. Spanish border guards were basically helpless in the face of such a big crowd which started to cross the border. So I believe Giorgia Meloni or other right-wing politicians are just using the moment to attack the Pedro Sanchez, who is considered to be leftist politician. It's quite sad that we don't experience solidarity, but rather attack toward other nation in EU.
Okay, well, we have 22 EU member states criticizing Pedro Sanchez and the way that Spain has dealt with its migration crisis. Meloni cites Spain's decision to grant citizenship to over 500,000 irregular immigrants as a pull factor. Does regularization policy in one member state fairly become the EU's collective problem, or is it framing itself as the demagoguery Spain accuses Italy of?
Yeah, I believe using the issue of legalization of stay of 500,000 migrants, which was decided recently by Spanish government, is showing that it's just a populist attack rather than a real argument, because this mechanism of legalization is used by Spanish governments since, I believe, 20 years. It's not the first time that Spanish government is legalizing stay of mainly more than 90% of these people are coming from Latin America, not from Morocco or other African states. Less than 10% are coming from African, Asian, and Eastern European states like Ukraine. So using this factor to justify attack on Spanish government, I believe it only shows that it's populism. It's nothing. It has nothing to do. I believe the factor which could have some impact on bringing these young mainly Moroccan people to Ceuta last days was that the High Court in Spain decided that there cannot be pushbacks for people who are crossing the sea to Ceuta or Melilla, and I believe this could produce some sort of fake news in social media, in Moroccan social media, but it has nothing to do with the legalization of stay.
Okay. All right. But when we look at that factor, when we look at the fact that so many people swam over knowing that they can somehow scout the laws by not being able to be pushed back at that point, is now a time, since you have 22 EU members disagreeing with how this is being handled or Spain's approach to the migration crisis, is it feasible, is it possible that the EU needs to rethink its pushback policy, especially in regards to its southern border?
I believe that if similar situation would happen in Greece, in Italy, or in Poland or Lithuania, like any other state which has a border with a regime, with unfriendly regime, and this situation would happen that 80,000 people would show up at the border, even highly protected, like in Poland or Finland, we would still face a big challenge, and these people, probably most of them, would cross the border. So it's not only Spanish problem. That's why I'm saying that one of the biggest mistakes here is lack of solidarity, lack of understanding, and trying to show and find solutions together, because it's our common problem. It's not just Spanish problem. And I believe that EU states should commonly look not only at the pushback policy, but rather at the so-called externalization policy. Externalization means that EU states are using other states, these unfriendly regimes, to manage migration. We are not managing migration ourselves as European Union states, but we rather give it to Libya, to Morocco, to Belarus, to Turkey. And most of these states are rather dictatorships, quite authoritarian states, which are using this fact that they manage our migration issues to blackmail us. And I believe what we experienced last days was a clear example of blackmailing, migration blackmail from Morocco against Spain.
Well, we're all in agreement that the situation on the Belarus-Polish border was indeed the weaponization of migration by the Lukashenko regime. Do we also believe that these waves of migration, or specifically this case in Ceuta, is also the weaponization of migration by Morocco, say?
That's what I believe. I believe that a fact that Pedro Sanchez visited Algeria recently on July the 20th of July, and Pedro Sanchez visited Algeria to regulate, to restore political, economical, and security cooperation with Algeria. And Algeria, of course, is de facto in a high conflict, I would even say war, with Morocco. And the King of Morocco, the government of Morocco, will do anything to stop Spain from making these deals with Spain. And I believe there are a lot of facts showing that Morocco is preparing the ground for taking over control Ceuta, Melilla, and other enclaves on the northern coast. Because Morocco believes that these territories should be Moroccan, not Spanish. And even there were recently and a few months ago, American and Israeli politicians which were saying the same, that Melilla, Ceuta should be Moroccan rather than Spanish. So we are experiencing, I would say, preparing the ground for this operation that Spain will have to leave these territories to Morocco at some point.
I'd like to address the situation concerning other state actors. It has been cited by the Foreign Minister of Ukraine, Andriy Sybiha, that they have noticed a huge detection in Russia exploiting this to try and sow disunity within the European Union. It seems with 22 member states lashing out against Spain, that this may have been a successful operation. But that being said, you mentioned the Americans, the Israelis. So we have foreign actors here at play. We have disunity within the European Union. What should the Spanish Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, be doing right now?
Of course, USA will never say that they have nothing to do, like Russia is saying that they have nothing to do what's happening in Belarus. And, it's just a pure coincidence that highway from Morocco to Western Sahara is just called by Donald Trump's name. So there are just these coincidences, and that a Republican congressman like Mario Diaz-Balart claiming that Ceuta should be given back to Morocco. These are all only coincidences, and probably USA will never say anything about it, and Spain cannot say that it's that we can blame USA for what happened. But what should Pedro Sanchez do? I think he does excellent job. I mean, the Spanish government, the Spanish authorities did excellent job in returning these people back to Morocco. I believe just in 2 days, they managed to return more than 95% of them, according to the local authorities. So that's one thing. So they show they are effective. But what they should do is also to appeal, and I believe you started from this, that Pedro Sanchez is appealing for solidarity, European solidarity. Without European solidarity, I believe they can't do nothing. They just have to rely on Moroccan government, which we can see they can just take their border forces out of the border, and Spain is left alone, and that's really sad fact, because we should really work as one body, and I hope Pedro Sanchez will somehow persuade its European partners to cooperate rather than only attack and make these critical claims.
Yes, indeed, a very complicated situation, and one that will be developing. Karol Wilczyński, a teacher and researcher at Jagiellonian Center for Migration Studies. Thank you so much for joining us on World Talks.
Thank you.
And that concludes this edition of World Talks. Thanks for joining us, and stay with us for more, because World News is coming up 10 o'clock.